Briefly who I am. Born and raised here in the western suburbs, married for 13 years, live in St. Charles now. Been self-employed since 2003. Between 08 and 18, we did 482 Burr properties, mostly south side. But we've done a whole bunch of other things kind of randomly all around. Right now, we've been buying and holding industrial properties. We have 9 industrial, kind of the small, older buildings that they're tearing down. I feel there's a shortage of those, and there will be, but there'll always be a need. Also buying some single-family homes in mostly DuPage County. Got to be on a TV show back in 2017. And
Sean Conlon?
Yeah, Sean Conlon. It was The Deed. We were on an episode, so it was entertaining. I'll never do reality TV again. I'm the manager broker here of GC Realty Development. We've leased over 5,000 units. We managed over 3,500 units over time. Right now, we manage just under 1,500 units, pretty much all around Chicago and the suburbs. All right, so I always tell people this. What qualifies me to stand up here and even give you guys this advice? And really comes down to I've messed up on so much stuff. Everything I talked to you about today was trial and error. Everything you hear about, I bring up on the podcast. If you guys listen to the podcast, the questions I ask are usually trying to pull mistakes out of people. I feel we all learn so much from other people's mistakes, our own and other people's. No one ever wants to hear me get up here and say, oh, it's so easy and you can do it too. It's type stuff. That sucks. What we're going to talk about today: government requirements, HOA requirements, property requirements, other requirements. Government requirements, rental license. So, if you're getting ready to rent your place out, if you're in the suburbs, if you're in the city, you don't got to worry about this. But a lot of I believe it is 118 of the 182 suburbs has a rental license requirement. Some call it an occupancy, some call it a move-in, and understanding what those are. So, for instance, Hanover Park, you're not even allowed to have somebody move into your property until you pass that first inspection. And most of the suburbs end up being like that, but there's these, and then they have usually an inspection you have to go through. So make sure if you're in the suburbs, understanding that. If you go to our resource page at GC Realty Inc., we basically listed out every single suburb and the requirement and the cost at the time we pulled it at, I think it was 2021.
Mark, question: does the city of Chicago have a license for rentals above 5 units, 10 units? What's the threshold?
Up until 3 years ago, if you had a 4-unit or larger, you had to get like this $15 permit, apply for it and do it. I don't think anyone ever really did it, and we ended up doing it for a while there, but then they did away with that program. So we actually sent in the check and they sent it back. That's how we found out that it ended. That's the only way we found out it ended. Occupancy requirements, at Streamwood, if you have a 2-bedroom, they really follow hard you can't let, yeah, you can't let 5 people move into a 2-bedroom. So make sure that you're understanding before you're leasing it. RTO, CRTO. So RTO, if you're in Cook County, this only came out 2 years ago. And it's everywhere suburban Cook County outside of Chicago. And it's a whole nother set of guidelines that you need to know. And we talked about this in the other thing, so I won't go too deep in it. But then you have the CRLTO, which is Chicago, which that's been around since the 80s. Deposits, security deposits. Anyone that has a place in Chicago knows it's not favorable to, well, let's put it this way. There's pros and cons of collecting security deposits. In the suburbs, there's certain, as part of the, I got a pointer on here, don't I? Oh, that's not the pointer. Oh, there we go. You can't really see it though. As part of the Cook County ordinance that came out 2 years ago, you're only allowed to collect 1.5 months security deposit. And the tenant can hold you to only making them pay the first 1 month's worth of security deposit, and they're allowed to pay the other half that you might collect over payments. So keep that in mind. One thing that we did for a long time in Chicago was we collected first month's rent and last month's rent, but then I didn't get in trouble for it, but I was told, then we stopped doing it, that last month's rent, it could be considered, if you're collecting prepaid rent any further out than 6 months, it could be considered a security deposit. So I know some people still do that as a way to hedge it, but you can still get in trouble for that. Lease template. So, there is specific Chicago lease that you want to follow. There's specific guidelines that have to be in that lease. Same with Cook County now. So make sure you're having those stuff. Short-term, if you're looking at short-term rental, in the city of Chicago, there's lists. You got to make sure your building's on that list. Short-term, Naperville, for example, doesn't even allow short-term anymore. Roselle doesn't even allow short-term anymore. So, a lot of people are getting into the short-term game right now, but there's a lot, man. In one Tuesday night meeting, they could get rid of your whole business model if you don't have different exit strategies as far as how you want to do that. A lot of people have shifted to midterm. So my buddy Matt, he took all the short-term stuff in Naperville. He just does it 31 days. So midterm is 31 days or more. So a lot of cities, I don't know of any suburbs, if anyone knows it, that have banned midterm rentals. So
Some do, yeah.
they've banned midterm?
Yes.
Do you know which ones?
𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃.
Oh, really?
So what they require is, as part of the rental license, they need a lease, and the lease has to be minimum 1 year.
Oh, really?
Basically, they are saying even no to a midterm rental.
Oh, okay. So we got stuff there, but it's all minimum 1 year. So
If they require a lease, they say it has to be a minimum of 1 year lease.
gotcha.
No, you can't. You have to have a minimum 1 year lease. After that, you could do month to month, but you can't start off with a month to month lease, basically.
Now there's HOAs. I'll go back to the requirements that require 1 year lease, and they'll kind of hold you to it.
Correct.
Anyone know the loophole around that?
No.
So somewhere buried on page 9 of your lease, you put that tenant could have a 30-day right to get out of the lease. The HOA never look at that. They look at the dates up top, and you're good. So, and you have to get the tenant. You have to tell the tenant, like, hey, listen, the HOA is requiring this, sign this, but on page 9, you'll see you have a 30-day right, and I can't deny that. So, but that's how you work with the HOA thing.
But is there a workaround with the village?
I don't know.
Could we do a corporate lease and then say the corporate is allowed to do a subleasing, and then we do month to month?
I'm sure you could do something similar with that 30-day out somewhere in there as well, too.
Yeah, but,
Did you try that in your first?
no, I didn't try. I don't want to play with fire. Terrace is a small community.
They are, yeah.
The neighbors will call the village, hey, this guy has lived for 1 month, 2 months, and then the city will find an excuse to give me a fine.
Yep.
So I don't want to be an outlier and try, things that don't fit the box. Now, had it been a big suburb and they don't really care, then I would try to play those games.
And then as far as government requirements, what do you not know? That's probably it's all of our biggest kind of blind spot that we all have. But I always tell people, if you know somebody, now if you know somebody, if you're looking at Oak Brook Terrace, you got a guy to call, ask them. They'll probably tell you all the things that I just told you and point out things that you probably don't know. HOA requirements, rules and regulations. Man, so HOAs are very different than they were 20 years ago. And what they require in their sharpness, and now they charge fees for it, so there's actually kind of a money-making thing. But the rules and regulations, in your lease, you want to make sure you tie it back, your lease somehow, that the tenant's responsible. If they violate the rules and regulations, they're going to pay for it. In the rules and regulations, there's going to be certain stuff around leasing, what you're allowed to, what you're not allowed to, if you're not allowed to do it, and so forth. Can I rent it, and for how long? Does anyone know the loophole around the places that do not allow you to rent?
Hardship?
Yes. So you have so all of these decks and bylaws, the thing that none of us ever read, they all are fairly boilerplate over the last 50 years. Very short variations, short of a couple addendums here and there. But in almost every HOA, they have some sort of hardship paragraph, which they can approve hardship based on, and maybe give you a 1 year right to be able to rent your place out. You'll see people that have done that. I've utilized it myself when I met my wife, and she had a place, and the market crashed in 2008. Man, I basically went to them. I said, I have a hardship because when I sell this place for 40 grand and take the hit on the short sale, you guys are all screwed based on your values. And they try to look at it through that lens. So, but there is a hardship clause in almost every deck and bylaw here in Illinois. Move-in or move-out requirements. Man, there's certain, especially when you get into the city and you get into the common areas where you can only move in between 7 and 3, and you have to have an elevator. Some people require security to be on hand. Move-in requirements, a lot of times they want to put the blankets up in the elevator so you're not denting it. They make you put security deposits down or non-refundable move-in fees for the HOA. So make sure you follow those rules, because They get pissed. And I think where I see a lot of people get burned on this one is on the move out. I know for us, if our tenants don't follow it, the HOA definitely calls us up and they give us a fee and then we got to take it from their deposit. So as far as your move out process, kind of looking 12 months down the road, make sure that you're talking to your tenants about following these HOA rules. Rental caps and waiting lists. Man, some of these HOAs have rental caps that you're only allowed to have 20% of the total amount of units rented, and you might want to rent your place out, and you can't because they're at 22% right now. So just make sure, if you're thinking about renting your place in a townhome or buying a place in a townhome, make sure you understand all this stuff.
Do you know how they typically keep track of that? I mean, are you getting like a certificate or?
HOA management, they just simply track that somehow on their side of things.
You guys submit the lease when you're moving.
Yeah, so I mean, that's how they do that. Now, if you're looking to buy a place, one in a condo, which I'm not crazy about. I think I was telling you this the other day. I said, you see these deals, these townhouses, and it's like, that makes sense. I could probably rent it, but it's like, I explained HOAs is like, it's that ex-girlfriend. It's like, man, she that you only remember the good times till you get back with her one more time. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I don't. So remember, that's how HOAs are. Like they look sexy from afar, especially when you're scrolling through Redfin or an off-market deal. But man, once you get back in bed with an HOA, man, you remember. So, but if you are going to buy an HOA, I own condos in HOA. The thing you always want to look for is a higher level of investors in there. So if you already have 20 or 30 or 40% investors in there, they're not going to be able to pass a law that's going to say capping at 20%. They're not going to pass a law that says get rid of rentals altogether. So, I got a place over here on Mercury Drive in Schaumburg. You guys might be familiar with it. It's always been a little like small investment, but it's 40% investors. They'll never be able to pass that law, so I'm never worried. Victorian Park in Streamwood, over there off of Park and Schaumburg Road. It's like 70% investors over there still to this day. So like you'll never have to worry about those things. You got competition with rentals, but you don't got to worry about them banning it. Pet restrictions. Some places don't allow cats, some places don't allow dogs, some don't allow any. So that Mercury place, they don't allow dogs over there. So you got to make sure that when you lease somebody, you're not leasing to them with a dog, and then you screw up and you got to figure out how to backtrack from that. HOA, back to my point about the ex-girlfriend, you don't control your destiny with HOA. And it even changed over time because you have different board members that come on, come off. These board members, I've been on them, I'm on them. They are not built, they're not community development specialists. Some of them just have nothing better to do except figure out how to make your life miserable. And they have good intentions. So I'm not totally bashing that nice old lady that's on the board. She's just got nothing better to do, man. And that her husband passed away and she's got nothing. So keep that in mind. Oh, I already gave you the insider tip on bylaws. I thought I was actually coming up with something new there, and I already thought about this 2 weeks ago.
On that work, on the hardship exemption, I've talked to 2 different people in the last couple of weeks. Basically, because of the relationship they had with some of the decision makers on the board, they got the hardship exemption for basically bullshit reasons. So I think there's probably value at least being good to the people on the board.
Yeah. Well, that's why we got out of HOA management, though, because that board changes. Yeah. It's like, you get in with one side of the board, and then all of a sudden, it's rough. We just, I'll share these. You got the QR code there. I'll share this whole thing with everyone that signed up for today. But we took 50 fails that straight from our straight up Chicago housing provider tip, and we put it into a nice little book and put a whole bunch of videos for each one of them. So it's something, again, these are all things that we've been burned by, we've seen clients burned by, and they're all just kind of good things to avoid. And there's 50 of them, and I'll share that with you guys.
Are these specific to Chicago or in market?
Yeah, so everything we do is specific to Chicago. When I'm trying to figure out how I can add value to other people, like there's so much crap online now, like you go figure out anything. So I've gone very niche when it comes to that stuff. Property requirements. I put a QR code here for our standards. We put it right on our website. We have basically clean, safe, and functional. That's kind of how if we're talking about getting your place ready for rent now we've kind of moved on to what you got to do to make your place rent ready. For us, functional, fix what's broken. It's very easy for you to live there for 7 years, and that ceiling fan that makes that funny noise, never bother you because you like that weird noise at night. And all of a sudden, that's the first work order a tenant calls in. So what's there, make sure it works. It's functional. The drawer that I always pulled out and fell every time you pull it out was something you've gotten used to. But that's going to be something that they're going to pull out, break, and you're going to have a whole drawer you got to replace plus a work order on top of it. What I'm trying to create or achieve, really just the resident experience. So when we're thinking about these fix what's broken, what's there, make sure it works. I don't know about any of you guys, but turnover is like the devil when it comes to, if I could, and we overlook this a lot, if I could make that resident experience just that much better, where they will only leave because it only makes sense for something in their life, that's what I want to accomplish. And if I don't have to bother them with work orders, and we just did a recent podcast episode with Joey Coleman, which is all about resident experience. Really awesome episode. Maybe I'll send that to you guys too. But moving is like the second most stressful time ever. So if they move in and they're on day 3, not only are they already aggravated, they're looking for problems, they're not in the right mindset, and then all of a sudden you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So just trying to make sure everything is truly ready to go. Reduce ongoing maintenance. Obviously, that's something that you don't have to get the calls, you don't have to figure out what to do, and then not set up the resident for failure really as far as being a long-term tenant. You guys know what the average kind of lease term is here in Chicago, how long people stick around?
5 years.
All right, that's beautiful if you got that. It's 32 months. 32 months.
So less
32.
Yeah, so I think if you break it down, it's like 28 in apartments, 27 and 28, and then it's 34, 35 in single family.
28 in apartment.
But that's something like here at GC, like right now I think, what are we at?
Just under 60.
Yeah, so we're right there at 5 years, but man, we do everything. We literally have written around upstairs, like, do not let people move out. Because, for us as a property manager, everything goes wrong then. Like, we have 4 or 5 different departments got to deal with it. The place is vacant. We can't control what happens with the storm that rolls through, and no one reports it for 3 days. Like, all these things, owner decides, maybe I should sell. It's vacant now. Just don't let people move out. That's the owner wins. We win, the resident wins, and that's good. So
So all the hell breaks loose if the tenant is stuck.
yeah, I'll tell clients. The clients are always like, because part of our management, we have a lease renewal fee. So because we do put a lot of effort in it, but clients will ask us, like, they're looking to hire us, they're like, well, you have so much invested interest, you might as well just keep finding new tenants because you get paid more. I'm like, listen, we have so much risk to screw things up if that second that place goes vacant versus us negotiating and getting that guy to stay another year. Like, our interests are aligned.
Do you guys increase rent at the end of lease term or no?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we try to. I mean, that's always the goal.
How much do you go up by? 5%, 10%?
It all depends. I mean, we inherit properties that are well under the market, and we try to get that closer to the market without getting them to move out. That's kind of always the line. When it comes to functional, what's loose, go in and tighten. Think about this: your towel bars, your door handles, your toilet paper holder. All those things are loose at every term. And so many times I walk into other investors' places, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's fine. But that's what falls off then, and that's what does a little drywall damage. So I always tell people, like, that tighten, that way when they move out again, it'll just be loose again. It won't be off the wall or it won't be broken. Because then you set them up for failure, and then it's like, now they ripped the toilet paper thing out, now you got to charge them back, now they're mad. So it's trying to avoid some of that stuff. Bulbs, I know for us, for our lease, we require the tenants they're in charge of bulbs. But we make sure that we give them a full set of bulbs. That way we can justify it. So if you don't have in your lease that tenants are required to do the bulbs, make sure you do that. But it does come with, you have to give them a house with all bulbs that work. So, bulbs can come down to a safety thing as well too. Door stops, for me, door stops is the drywall prevention repair later. And that is something that, again, set up for failure. Furnace filters. We try to stock the units with 6 months of furnace filters of the right size. We do put it in the lease that they're required to change it. I put up here Second Nature. This is a company that actually sends out furnace filters and has a date on there, so you know if they're changing or not. But it's pretty cool. You put in the lease, you make them change it, and then the first filter actually says has the dates on it. So you could go in, if you pull it out and it's been for 8 months ago, the tenant can't say, man, I've been changing it every month.
Second Nature does what again? What is it?
So they, you could order them up. And I do this for my house too, because I'm bad at filters for my own house. Every 60 days, I get the 2 filters for my 2 furnaces in the mail.
It's a subscription service.
Yeah, it's a subscription service.
But then how do you make sure tenant will actually go and replace them?
So you'll when you're doing your inspections, when you do the move out, it'll have the date on the actual filter. Now, don't get me wrong; they could move out the day before they move out. I'm sure they could cheat it, but at least you're not set up for failure. When they run out of the 6 there and they've been there for 2 years, it's like you probably don't remember to replenish it. But what you do is you get them to even pay for it in the lease, like filter subscription service, and you just put that as additional $11 or whatever it costs a month.
Mark, something like that, like let's say we have in the lease that they need to change their filter, and 6 months into the lease, let's say the condenser freezes up. Can we charge back to the tenant if we go in there and change the filter and it looks bad?
Yeah, no, we do that. So we had a tenant that moved out right now that they never paid it. It was a security deposit charge. Yeah, so they actually, one of them took out the filter and never put one back. And then the other one was, our vendor had the picture. I mean, it looked like a wall. Like it was so dirty. It's like, oh man. But it was funny because in the picture of the dirty filter, you saw 12 like brand new filters on the floor right in the background next to it. I don't think he did it on purpose. It was just coincidental that's how the picture ended up.
Thermostats with specific dates programmed into when like tenant's supposed to change the filter, and like without changing the filter, it wouldn't allow to adjust the temperature. So, I'm not sure if something like that exists, but
You could easily reset that.
Yeah.
Like I have at my home, right? You can reset the smart thermostat that I've changed the filter, but I've not.
For us, we have our newsletter that goes out every 2 months, and that's one of the first reminders, like change your filter. Thermostat batteries. So for us, I know this past year, it was like 18% of our no heat calls were just the thermostat was dead. And those people have probably been there for many years. But for us, every turnover, we make sure we change those 2 AA batteries in the non-Nest type thermostats to make sure that that's not a work order. Now, one of our first troubleshooting things when we have a no heat is to send us a picture of the thermostat. So remove all personal items. You know what? A lot of people try like, you might need this cleaning product. You might need this laundry detergent. You might need all this stuff. I tell people just get rid of everything because then it just piles up or then it just kind of builds on the next stuff. Now, if you have special counters or you have a special tub or and you have certain cleaning products, yeah, you can leave that stuff there and make sure you leave a note and make sure you put that in your lease.
What about, Mark, something like a grill on like a back porch?
See, I'm, when it comes to grills or any of the furniture, I always kind of tell people to get rid of everything, especially grills. When they burn your place down or they move that too close to the siding and they so your grill, man, so all that stuff. So people are like, I know you get this all the time. It's like, oh man, I'll leave a ladder just in case they need it. It's like, no, don't leave a ladder, dude. Or the snow blower or the lawnmower. It's like, man, just for single family homes, you put it on the tender. Like, well, if they need a lawnmower, yeah, but let them go figure out their own stuff because when your lawnmower breaks, then they're gonna say they didn't cut it because your lawnmower broke. I always tell people to get rid of that. As far as shelving, in garage stuff like that, if it's appropriate. If you have a bunch of stuff you just never took to the dumpster that came from the bedrooms upstairs, then you should get rid of that stuff.
I was gonna say too, I'm not sure if this is even viable, but I just had a thought as you were saying is that if you're leaving your stuff behind, whether it be a ladder or a lawnmower or whatever, and it breaks and it injures them,
That's
it'll also open you up to some sort of liability as well.
yeah, no, exactly. That's where I was going with that for sure.
Gift it to them in the lease? Is that a thing?
You could. So every so often in the south side or south suburbs, we'll have the people, for the south suburbs, we never provide washer and dryer because you get away with that down there in that market. You can't do that up here in Schaumburg or Elk Grove, but down there you can. And if someone leaves a nice set, we'll say, hey, you could just have the set. We're not going to fix it. And then same with south side Chicago, we don't provide appliances. And if someone leaves something, but then we get into the issue and the management of tracking of They call it we gift it to them, but it's like now you got to look at the lease every time. So we try to stay away from that when we can.
But Mark, if you don't put appliances in south side, how do you guys pass the Section 8 inspection? I think they need appliances during the time.
So when you fill out the Section 8 paperwork, you just say you don't provide the stove or the fridge. It's typically just a stove and fridge, and you get, I think it's $8 or $11 less they'll pay in rent because the tenant has to provide it.
They can still do the inspection.
Yeah. Now, if the tenants provide the appliances, then you're not going to fail for the caked up grease thing that doesn't light up, or the stove that doesn't work, or the fridge handle that came off, because technically they provide it.
You guys don't provide any appliances?
On the south side, we don't provide them. So,
Or in the city?
but we will provide them with. So we ran into this issue, right? We will provide them with 2 or 3 awesome like used vendor guys that we do, and we encourage them to go through that, because when you don't provide appliances and they go buy some crappy stove that's got roaches that are living in there, they don't realize, no one realizes, bam, then you got a problem. So south side, south suburb, this is probably a south side limited thing. The one thing that I realized over the years is when a tenant's been there for a while and they move out and they got roaches and you can't get rid of them, it's usually they're living in the fridge or they're living in the stove. They like that heat of the thing. Toilet seats, they're always loose. Don't let them rip off. Towel bars, drain stoppers. You know, it seems silly, but the drain stopper is then like all that hair. You know, especially if is usually female long hair that ends up screwing us trying to get it out. But make sure you have the drain stoppers in there for whatever it might be. Water draining test. So for us, what we do is when we go into a place to get it ready, we turn on all the water for 3 minutes. And if you go back, if you have anything sitting there, that means that you have to do something. It might just be as simple as putting Drano down. It might be you have to rot it out. But we just run water for 3 minutes everywhere, come back and see if it's sitting or not. Cables, man, no one's using cable anymore. So get rid of your damn cables. But then just, we try to get rid of it because we don't want, we put on our lease not to put holes or anything like that. So we get rid of all the cables, and a lot of times it's just kind of sitting around. They've nicely pinned it or not nicely pinned it all around the room. So we'll always get rid of that stuff. Blinds. For us, our standard with blinds is if they're there, we'll replace them. But if at bare minimum, you know, sometimes you get these new construction or whatnot, we always put blinds in bedrooms and front facing, because we want to make sure we protect how the front of the house looks. We've been burned on that in the south side. We had a no blinds thing in the south side for a while too, and it's like there's a Batman sheet, there's a Playboy sheet, so it just did not look well for the building.
Some HOAs require you to have blinds.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the other parts, we got functional, we got safe. Smoke and COs. You guys are all familiar with the hardwired. Yeah. What's that?
No, the 10-year seal.
Yep, the 10-year sealed. Now, the one thing with smoke and COs that we were talking about the other day at the office is there's certain cities that require you to have it in every bedroom. I think Hoffman is one of them. You have to have a Streamwood. I think maybe you have to have a smoke and CO or smoke in every bedroom. But the state law is 15 feet from any gas burning thing, whether it be a stove, a hot water heater, furnace. I know one thing, obviously the sealed ones are a little more expensive up front. So just make sure if you follow the rules, you shouldn't have to put them in every single bedroom, depending where you're at. A lot of things, COs as well too. COs are not required if you have an all electric building as well too. So I know we've ran into that. So if you have electric heater, electric stove, all that stuff, because you have no gas. Screens, we're big on screens for safety-wise, just little kids falling out and stuff like that. Our rule for screens is if it's bigger than 1 inch, you know, we'll patch it or do something with it, that little hole. Exterior door slams, you know, make sure your closers. All right, so one thing I realized for anyone in the south suburbs or south side was security doors. I used to always try to skimp out on that $230 metal security door, and we end up too many break-ins, or the tenants to complain about security. As I've matured, I've appreciated security a little more as I've grown my family. But you know, when you don't have that storm door, that metal storm door, it's really easy to break in. You see me throw my shoulder there, but
Is that practice?
Back door, so it's not even only for your resident, something to make them feel safe. But at the same time, when you go to turn over that unit, it's just you got another lock set, but it's just gonna be that much more difficult to do something about if someone wants to get in. And we all know, we all heard the crime, it'll go to the place of least resistance. So decks and porches, man, we've had multiple issues over the years where it's just like that one loose board that we never knew about, that tenant. We're dealing with one in the south side right now where supposedly she tripped on a deck and the board was loose. But make sure all your decks and porches have secure boards. And even if it's just like a single family back patio and it's just got that one board, it ends up being a safety issue. The one thing that I've realized too with decks and porches too is not taking care of it. It's always like, I get one more year out of that, out of not staining that deck. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that one more year was like 5 years ago and now I gotta replace it. So I've tried to push that, and then you rip it all out and you just put a little 4x4 concrete pad. But railings, again, it's crazy. Most railings, all of these 60s, 70s built buildings, the railings are too low. I think the height right now is 42 inches as far as height goes. So a lot of even our suburban type stuff is not to what code would be today. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying go to code, but at least secure it so you don't have to get in trouble for it. Lighting, this is another thing that, I used to skimp when we were doing our 400 burrs. I used to skimp on throwing that extra light fixture in the backyard or running power to the garage to make sure that I have another light fixture or enough power to the garage. And so lighting's a big deal. I probably look back at our old work orders and see so many tenant complaints of like, it's so dark in here. And then, especially if you got a multi-unit and you have a back porch that doesn't have, that's not open to the elements, it's enclosed, and lighting's an issue there if you're not having it right. We talked about blinds. So blinds could be a safety thing as well too. Window wells, I had a kid fell with a little window well, so we always try to make sure that there's something over it if it's more than a foot or so. Outlets, if you see a burn mark on your outlet, there's a pretty good chance there's something going on with that outlet. So fencing, fencing ends up being old fences, if you look really close, there's usually a lot of nails and a lot of that stuff. So make sure you're not doing that. I had a dog rip open his whole side on something that we probably should have caught or repaired if we did catch it. So it was kind of a horrible scenario. We ended up helping that owner with the vet bills on that. Fireplaces. Fireplace is very overlooked. Now, you could just not have somebody allowed to use your fireplace at all, especially if you have wood burning, because that could be messy. But at the same time, you don't know what's building nests in there. So I always think, for us, no less than every 2 years, we try to pay the $200 inspection to make sure that there's nothing up there in the flue or make sure we're good. For us, it's just, we don't really make exceptions when it comes to the safety stuff. All right, so clean. It's so amazing how you walk into a lot of rentals and they're pretty dirty. And this is like the one that's like so easy. Like this, this is the problem. You're gonna pay your $200, $300 turnover clean, same no matter what, but you could get totally different results for it. If you could send your handyman there and he's just not a cleaner, you pay him a couple $100 to do it, versus maybe a cleaning service, or one cleaning service sucks versus the other. But this is one that I think is, you could, if you could get away with things that aren't 100% functional, but if it's clean, they'll probably still take it. So I think this one is one that I see a lot of times, ceiling fan blades, they don't get touched. We actually put in our punch list for our handyman versus waiting for the cleaning people to do the ceiling fan blades, just because cleaning people always, I didn't have a step stool or whatever. So we now make it part of kind of the punch list. The return vents as well too. Sometimes those have to be taken off and hosed off, where the cleaning people are probably going to do that. Bathroom exhaust fans, it'll help ultimately your exhaust fan last longer. Exterior doors and trim. Now, I don't know if you guys ever even at your own house, just look at the door going from your garage into your house, or your front door, like that white steel door we all have, like it's nasty. And the rentals, it gets like that too. So just that's, especially on the front door. A lot of people do use the garage door, but then that also means a lot of times that front door gets dirty and no one notices it. And no one's even using that door till the actual turnover comes. So that's your first impression, is that that front door when people are walking in and there's all these fingerprints and You could run analytics on who lived there before because it's clear prints. Medicine cabinet yuckiness, man, this is nasty. Hairs, pubes, whatever it might be, it's just nasty, that the stuff that you see in some of these medicine cabinets of something that's ready for someone to move in. And use the right products. You know, I think there's different products you could use for wiping down walls. There's just kind of little hacks for getting things off countertops, making burn marks not look as bad. And then here's the other thing that I realized 20 years into this business is each time you do a turnover, the place is just a little dirtier than if you're not staying on top of the dirtiness. And then that does, if you're busy, if maybe you're delegating your turnovers, then all of a sudden you realize you kind of have a nastier product than what you had when you bought this place and you're so proud 7 years before. You know, paint is a cleaning item. Think about this: when you walk in a place and you smell a clean place, what else do you smell? Yeah, you smell that. There's a level of freshness that comes with that. I'm not saying you have to paint everything every time, but paint is a big thing for helping kind of overcome, or creating a freshness, or overcoming someone's 7 years of living somewhere. Wiping walls, you know, you don't always have to paint. I'm not a fan of just like painting little holes because usually that paint is worn, and you really, and the right way to do it is really to roll the wall. Spot versus roll, I just talked about that. For us, we have, obviously we manage 1,500 units, we have a million different colors, but you know, properties we paint, or if someone's about to hire us and they're going to paint it before they hire us, we'll tell them use these colors. This is the colors we're going to use going forward, and we kind of have, you know, everything's either kind of a gray or a tan these days. If you want to stay neutral, right? So you know, we have our three colors. We have 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁 beige, we have grayish, and we have nimbus, which is kind of three different shades. Obviously goes with the floor or whatever other, you know, if it's got wood trim in there, we're not doing gray. So, but kind of keep that in mind. That'll always make it easier for you. And then you never have to worry about color matching either if you just kind of know what those are. Patching nail holes, removing TV brackets. If you're not painting, you know, I always leave TV brackets up there for the next person, so long as you know they're secure, right? That's the last thing you need is a 80-inch falling on somebody. Patching nail holes. You know, for us, our goal when we turn over a unit to somebody is to try to get it in a way we want it back. Mostly for, you know, because what I see happen is like, oh, there's already nail holes there. We're like, yeah, there's 4 nail holes there. Now there's 40. So to kind of try to avoid some of those things, if you are painting, you know, some painters just go right over the nail hole. They'll never patch it. It's like, come on, man. Like, and then finding your colors, talked about that. Other requirements, insurance. You know, a lot of people aren't laying that out. Maybe if you're buying a place, you're not getting that. If you're living in a place and you're going to go rent it, your insurance policy is going to change. The dollar amount's going to probably go up. So make sure that you're thinking about that. Refinance. All right, you guys are all experts here. Like when you refinance in your owner occupied versus refinancing in your investor, you know which one to do. So if you're planning on turning maybe your personal residence into or your house hacking, you're going to move out, figure out whatever your financing is because you want to kind of lock that in for the next 30 years. How much time this will take? I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what I meant there. Do I hire someone for the work? You know, so all of this stuff you could do yourself. You could hire somebody. So kind of keep that in mind of what your level of expertise. I know early on I did a lot of my own work. And I realized that there's an opportunity cost to that, where I could be doing so much more with my time, while someone that actually enjoys painting a place or enjoys cleaning the place can do it for me.
How much time will it take, Mark? Is that talking about turnover timelines?
Yeah, getting your place ready for turnover, leasing. You know, we're talking a little bit about leasing there. You know, 5 people acquire, you go down there, 1 person shows. So there's just a lot of time when it comes to either turnover or leasing. Do I hire someone for leasing? So we're just talking about that. I always tell people, you know, we have a property management and company, and there's only 35% of people in the United States that actually hire a company like ours. The rest are all self-managers. But I always tell people that are unsure or not kind of on top of the laws or whatever, like if you outsource your leasing to the right people, that will at least set you up for easier management. It should. But you got to find the right people.